Creating equations with point-slope form. Point-slope form can be created, the equation itself, by the slope formula. Before we do that, I want to remind you something out of math that you've done earlier. Remember cross multiplying? Remember that if you have 3 over 5 equals x over 7, you can cross multiply and say, hey, 5 times x is 5x, 3 times 7 is 21, and I can divide by 5 and I can figure out what x is, 21 over 5. Well, we're going to do that same thing with the slope formula. We know that the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We will put the m over 1 because any number divided by 1 is itself, and we'll cross multiply. Cross multiply, and we get 1 times y2 minus y1, which is y2 minus y1, and m times x2 minus x1. This is point slope. The problem is, what we want to do is end up with an equation that looks like y equal mx plus b. Looking at this equation, y2 and y1 were y's of two different points. x2 and x1 were x's of those same points. What we need is a normal x and a normal y in order to make an equation. So what we could do then is replace one of these points with just a normal x and a normal y. So what we get is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And this is what we call point slope, the point slope formula. What do you need to use it? You need a point. The point is, of course, x1 and y1. There's my point. And we need the slope. You need a point and a slope to use it. For example, if I said I have a point of 2, 4, and I have a slope of 5, I can then use the point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That would be y minus the y of the point, which is 4, equals the slope, which is 5, times x minus the x of the point, which is 2. And now we have an equation that would pass through the point 2, 4 and have a slope of 5. Typically what we do with that point is we put it in slope-intercept form. We create y equal mx plus b, slope and intercept. There's 2 steps to do that. Distribute the 5. Y minus 4 equals 5x minus 10, 5 times x and 5 times 2. And then the last step to get y by itself is to add 4. And our equation would be y equal 5x minus 6. The equation 5x minus 6 would pass through the point 2, 4 and would have a slope of 5. There's my m. And a y-intercept of 6. A couple more examples, and you need to watch especially the second one. Let's take a fractional slope. If my slope was 2/3 and my point was 6, -3. Now point slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That would be y minus the y. Notice the y is -3, and the minus is separate from the sign on the number. Y minus -3 equals 2/3 times x minus 6. and that becomes y plus 3 equals, I'm going to distribute 2/3 times x and 2/3 times 6. Now 6 is over 1. Notice what this is. It's 2 times 6, which is 12, and 12 divided by 3, which is 4. So what I have is y plus 3 equals 2/3 x minus 4. 2 times 6 divided by 3 times 1. Last step to get the y by itself is to subtract 3. And our final answer, we'll put it over here, is y equals 2/3 x minus 7. Y equal 2/3 x minus 7 would go through the point 6, -3 and have a slope of 2/3. For this last example, before we get to the homework, we're going to find the equation that passes through the points -6, 8 and 2, -4. The problem is, to use point slope, you have to have a point and a slope. We don't have the slope. We have 2 points but no slope. Well, we can find the slope because we know that you subtract the y's up top, that's 8 minus -4, over, subtract the x's below. Since you started with the 8, you must start with the -6. -6 minus 2. Notice the double negative. 8 minus -4 is 8 plus 4, which is 12. -6 minus 2 is -8. And this simplifies because they're both divisible by 4. And I usually move the negative up top. -3/2. Now we can use point slope, and you can use it with either point. It makes no difference. When you solve for y, like we did up above, you're going to get the same answer. So either you're going to go y minus 8, that's the y of the point, equals -3/2 times x minus -6, and that will work fine. Or you'll go y minus -4 equals -3/2 times x minus 2. Now I say or because either one will produce the same answer. Let's try the top one. This becomes y minus 8 equals -3/2 times x plus 6. That's y minus 8 equals -3/2 x plus -3/2 times 6 over 1. Now this is -18. -3 times 6 is -18 divided by 2. That's y minus 8 equals -3/2 x. -18 divided by 2 is -9. So I'm writing -9. And our last step is then to add 8 to both sides, get the y by itself. Y equal mx plus b. It's -3/2 x minus 1. And if we graph that, we'll see that it passes through both of these points. And it has a slope of 3/2 and an intercept of -1. I'll prove it to you. There are 2 points, -6, 8 and 2, -4. And there's the line we just created, y equal -3/2 x minus 1. It's a screenshot from Desmos. Here's some questions from your assignment. First thing we need to do is practice solving for y so that we can use point slope form. In this equation, again, there are 2 steps. I need to get y by itself. First, I need to distribute -9 through the parentheses. -9x, -9 times x, and -9 times 2 is -18. One more step, get the y by itself. To get rid of a plus 6, we subtract 6 from each side of the equals, and y will equal -9x minus 24. And that is our answer. Here's one with some fractions. Don't be bothered by the fractions. Y minus 7 equals negative 1/9 times x is negative 1/9 x, and negative 1/9 times 27 is just 27 divided by 9. 9 goes into 27 3 times, and 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So this becomes y minus 7 equals negative 1/9 x minus 3. Almost there. Get the y by itself. Add 7 to both sides, and y will equal negative 1/9 x plus 4. Notice that question 8 asks for the answer in point-slope form. So that means we don't have to solve for y. Point-slope form was y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we just leave it like that. You don't need to solve for y. When you solve for y, that's slope-intercept. That's y equal mx plus b. So this one's going to be a little quicker. Now you can use either point for your y1 and your x1, but we do have to find the slope. To use point slope, you need a point and the slope. So to get the slope, we subtract the y's up top. That gives us the rise. 5 minus 9. Since I started with the 5, I must start with the 3. 3 minus, the minus is separate from the negative, negative 9. So my slope is 5 minus 9 is negative 4. 3 minus negative 9 is a double negative. It's plus. That would be 12. This simplifies because 4 and 12 are divisible by 4. Divide them both by 4 and you get negative 1/3. We have everything we need to write our answer in point-slope form. Y minus, if I use 3, 5, it'd be y minus 5 equals m, negative 1/3 times x minus the x, which is 3. Now this is a perfectly acceptable answer. I'll say or, because you could do the other one too. Y minus the y of the other point, which is 9, equals negative 1/3 times x minus negative 9. Now notice the double negative. The minus is separate from the negative, so this is plus. So that would be y minus 9 equals negative 1/3 times x plus 9. So either one of these answers is acceptable, and if you solve for y, you'd see they're exactly the same. And we finally get to one that asks for slope-intercept form. So the same steps as the last one. We need to find the slope, subtract the y's to find the rise, 1 minus negative 8. Subtract the x's to find the run, 2 minus 1. 1 minus negative 8 is positive 9. 2 minus 1 is 1. And 9 divided by 1 is 9. I can pick either point. It makes no difference. Y minus the y, pick a point. I'm going to choose 1 equals the slope, 9 times x minus the x of the point, which is 2. Got to use the same point. Now I'll take that, y minus 1 equals 9 times x minus 2, and I'll solve for y. Y minus 1 equals 9x minus 18. Distribute, take the 9 to both. Add 1 to both sides, and y will equal 9x minus 17. Question 11 asks for the in slope-intercept form, so we're going to create y equal mx plus b, and we'll use point slope to do that. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus the y of the point, which is 1, equals m, which they gave us, is negative 2, times x minus negative 1. Notice the double negative. So this is negative 2 times x plus 1. Now I'll distribute. Y minus 1 is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, so I'm writing that as minus 2. Get y by itself to create y equal mx plus b. We'll add 1 to both sides, and y will equal negative 2x minus 1. Question 13 asks for it in slope-intercept form, so we need to create y equal mx plus b. I'm going to use point slope, but to use point slope, I need a slope. We don't have the slope. So that's when we use that formula where we subtract the y's up top and the x's below. So this ends up being negative 5 minus 3 over negative 6 minus 6. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. Negative 6 minus 6 is negative 12. A negative divided by negative is a positive, and those are both divisible by 4. So we get 2/3. Now we can plug it in point slope. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we're going to use the first point, I suppose. Y minus, I'm using this point, negative 5 equals m, which is 2/3, times x minus negative 6. Notice those double negatives. Make them positives. Now we'll distribute, and this ends up being nice. Y plus 5 equals 2/3 times x, 2/3 x, and then I'm going to take 2/3 times 6. Now 6 is over 1, so this is 2 times 6 divided by 3. 2 times 6 is 12, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. Last step, get y by itself, take that 5 off each side, and we get y equals 2/3 x minus 1. If you understood that last one, the only way this one is different is that you've got some negatives for y, and I just put this in here just to point out, when you subtract the y's to find the slope, 2 minus negative 6, watch out for that double negative. The subtraction is separate from the sign on the number. Negative 1 minus 1, the x is below. So this is really 2 plus 6, which is 8. And negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. And 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4. Now we'll put that in point slope. Y minus, and you can use either point. I'm going to use the first one. Y minus 2 equals m, negative 4, times x minus negative 1. That's y minus 2 equals negative 4 times x plus 1. You're minusing a negative. Distribute. Take the 4 through the parentheses. Negative 4 times x. And negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Your last step, get that y by itself. Negative 4x minus 2. This one ends up with numbers that aren't as friendly, but you have a calculator, you have access to Desmos, so I would encourage you to use Desmos on this question. They give you the slope, so putting this in point slope is going to be fast. Y minus y1, m, x minus x1, y minus negative 7 equals 2/9 times x minus 27. Well, it actually looks like this comes out nice because 9 divides into 27. If it didn't, just go to Desmos and take your fraction times your number and hit the little circle next to it, and that'll give you the reduced fraction. And when you add fractions, Desmos does a great job with that too. www.desmos.com. This is y plus 7 equals 2/9 x minus 2/9 times 27 over 1. 9 goes into 27 3 times. Or you could have just done 2 times 27 divided by 9. Either way, you'll get the same thing. That's y plus 7 equals 2/9 x minus 6. Get the y by itself. And y equals 2/9 x plus 1. These last couple of questions on the assignment are just a test that you understand you can use either point in point slope. So you need to use both on this question. And I would just take and copy and paste the first answer into the second answer and change the point. That'll be quick. We need to find the slope first. We'll subtract the y's up top. -3 minus 5 over 10 minus 8. And that will be -8 over 2, which is -4. Now that we know the slope, we can use point slope. Y minus the y of the point, and I'm going to use 10 3 for my first one. That's this, 10 -3. Y minus -3, it's minus -3, so that's going to be plus 3. Equals m, -4, times x minus the x, which is 10. So that is the first one, number 1. And the second one, we're going to use 8, 5. That'll be y minus the y, which is 5, equals m, -4, times x minus the x, which is 8. So that gives you the first two boxes. This is the first, and this is the second. Now we'll take either equation, because if they don't produce the same answer for slope-intercept, we did something wrong. Take either equation and solve for y. Let's just take the first one. Y plus 3 equals -4x. Now I'm going to distribute. -4 times x. -4 times -10 is positive 40. I'm going to take a 3 off each side, and y will equal -4x plus 37. Now just to test this, this is our answer. We'll also take and check the second answer. We should produce the same answer. Y minus 5 equals -4. I'm going to distribute. -4x. And -4 times -8 is positive 32. Get the y by itself and add 5. And look at that. Y equals -4x plus 37. So these go in the box here.